Chapter 1: The Appearance of the Su-57, a Turning Point in the Sky of Ukraine. On August 31, 2025, the war in Ukraine witnessed a shocking event, not only in the region, but also in the world. For the first time, Russia publicly deployed the fifth-generation stealth fighter Su-57 into direct combat, carrying out powerful raids on targets on Ukrainian territory. This was not only news, but also considered an important turning point in the war that had lasted more than 3 years, when Moscow decided to deploy its most modern weapons into actual combat. To understand the significance of this event, it is necessary to look back at the war context at that time. After many months of intense fighting, both Russia and Ukraine fell into a stalemate, especially on the eastern fronts such as Donetsk and Luhansk. Ukraine has been receiving continuous arms aid from the West, including the Patriot air defense system, the ATACMS long-range missile, and most recently, the F-16 aircraft support package from several European countries. Under such pressure, Russia cannot rely solely on the Su-34 or the Su-35, which are already familiar in the skies of war. They need a trump card that is both symbolic and groundbreaking, and the Su-57 is that choice. The Su-57, also known by its NATO codename Felon, is a fifth-generation stealth fighter developed by Russia. Designed to counter the US's F-22 Raptor and F-31 Lightning II, the Su-57 is the pride of the Russian defense industry. This aircraft possesses an optimal aerodynamic design, radar stealth capability, integrated advanced avionics, and can carry a variety of precision-guided weapons. For many years, the Su-57 was only introduced in exhibitions, occasionally participating in exercises, but very rarely deployed on the battlefield. Russia's decision to deploy the Su-57 in Ukraine can be considered a move that is both experimental and a show of force. The reason why Russia sent the Su-57 into the Ukrainian war can be analyzed from 3 aspects. First, this is a direct response to Ukraine receiving F-16 aid from the West. Moscow understands that once the F-16s are put into service with the Ukrainian Air Force, the balance in the sky will change significantly. Although the F-16 is not a stealth fighter, it has high maneuverability, modern radar and missile systems, and is supported by NATO's command and control system. Without deploying the Su-57, Russia will find it difficult to maintain absolute air superiority. Second, this is a political and military move. The Su-57's appearance in the skies over Ukraine is not only aimed at its direct opponent, Kiev, but also sends a message to the West. Russia is ready to escalate, bringing the most modern weapons into the war if cornered. This is a clear reminder that Moscow does not lack the tools to maintain its advantage, and any efforts to increase Western aid will be met with a corresponding response. Third, the deployment of the Su-57 is also a technological test. No matter how modern an aircraft is, if it only stays in the laboratory and on test runways, it has not yet proven its true value. Putting the Su-57 into combat in Ukraine is an opportunity for Russia to collect real-life data, verify its stealth capabilities, and its ability to counter Ukraine's air defense system, which is considered one of the strongest in the world thanks to the support of the US and Europe. This can be considered a war laboratory that Moscow uses to perfect its weapons. It is worth noting that on August 31st, the Su-57 participated in a number of long-range strikes, launching cruise missiles from outside the danger zone, targeting Ukrainian military infrastructure. According to the published defense map, the targets included several ammunition depots in the Poltava region, an airbase near Kharkiv, and a command center on the outskirts of Kyiv. This shows that Russia's tactics are still based on the advantage of attacking from a distance, taking advantage of the Su-57's ability to carry weapons instead of letting this aircraft engage in direct air combat with Ukrainian air defense. Many experts believe that this is a wise move, because if the Su-57 is shot down early, it will be a heavy blow to Russia's prestige. Moscow clearly understands the symbolic value of the Su-57, so they deploy it in a safe way, mainly firing from a distance. This story is like you buy a sports car worth tens of billions of dong, but instead of speeding on the highway, you just drive around the streets to show off your figure, both safe and noticeable. However, the appearance of the Su-57 also created a chain reaction from Ukraine and the West. Immediately after the news that Russia had thrown its trump card into the sky, the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense announced that they would strengthen cooperation with the West to quickly deploy F-16s, while optimizing the air defense network to deal with the new threat. In Europe, many military analysts believe that this event could open the door to a more open arms race, as each side continuously introduces the most advanced systems to the test. On the war map, the appearance of the Su-57 did not immediately change the situation, but it had a huge psychological impact. For the Ukrainian people, it was a signal that the war would be even fiercer. For Russian soldiers, it was a morale boost that the country was bringing the most advanced weapons to protect national interests. For the world, it was a reminder that the conflict in Ukraine was not just a regional war, but had become a showroom for the world's leading military technologies. More importantly, Russia's deployment of the Su-57 to the battlefield also opened up a series of interesting questions. Is this aircraft really invisible to Western radar? Can it directly confront the F-16 or even the F-35 if the US decides to intervene more deeply? And will the Ukrainian battlefield become a place to compete between the world's most advanced military aviation technologies? These questions have not been answered yet, but they will certainly be hot topics in the coming months. In a humorous way, many netizens have compared the appearance of the Su-57 to the final boss in a video game. After overcoming a series of levels with regular soldiers, armored vehicles, and artillery, the player, Ukraine, now has to face the strongest, fastest, and most dangerous character. Of course, in the game, every boss has a weakness, and what the whole world is waiting for is whether Ukraine can find the fatal weakness of the Su-57 or not. In short, Chapter 1 shows that the event of the Su-57 participating in combat in Ukraine on August 31st is not just a simple news, but a turning point with many layers of meaning: military, political, psychological, and even technological. It poses new challenges for Ukraine, opens up new opportunities for experimentation for Russia, and keeps the world watching every move in the skies over Eastern Europe.
Chapter 2. When the bird of prey Su-57 steps out of the shadows. If Chapter 1 has opened up a panoramic picture of escalating tensions, then Chapter 2 is when we look straight at the heart of the story. Russia's fifth-generation fighter Su-57 officially entered combat in Ukraine. This is not only hot news on every newspaper, but also an important turning point in the current confrontation. The Su-57 has been promoted for many years as Russia's answer to the US F-22 Raptor and F-35 Lightning II. However, for a long time, this aircraft has been almost hidden, only appearing sporadically in a few tests. Many Western experts have even sarcastically said that the Su-57 is no different from a paper tiger, used more for advertising purposes than for actual combat. And then, on August 31st, the news that Russia deployed the Su-57 on the Ukrainian battlefield was a punch straight at those doubts. Why did Russia choose this time to deploy the Su-57? The answer lies in the tactical stalemate. Previously, Russia used its Su-34 and Su-35 squadrons to attack Ukrainian infrastructure, but it continuously faced a dense air defense network provided by the West. The Patriot, Iris-T and NASAM systems prevented many Russian aircraft from advancing deep, forcing them to attack from a distance. The deployment of the Su-57 is meant to deploy the trump card, to both improve precision attack capabilities and send a deterrent message. We have new weapons and we will use them. According to published sources, the Su-57 mainly participated in the war by conducting long-range airstrikes. This was wise in that Russia did not let the Su-57 directly confront Ukrainian air defenses. This aircraft is designed to be stealthy, capable of reducing radar reflection and carrying H-59 Mk2 or even H-69 cruise missiles, which are considered difficult weapons for air defense networks. Imagine this. If the war is like a chessboard, then the Su-57 is like a queen that has just appeared. Before that, Russia had tanks, artillery, Su-34, Su-35, but all was still held back to a certain extent. When the queen enters the battle, the opponent is forced to adjust the entire chessboard. Ukraine will certainly have to recalculate how to deploy air defense and at the same time worry about the risk of being attacked on strategic targets deep inside its territory. Another point worth noting, Russia's use of the Su-57 is not only a military action but also a psychological blow. Remember, modern warfare takes place not only on the ground, in the sky, but also on the media front. Sending the Su-57 into battle means that Russia wants to prove to the world, we are not backward, we have comparable technology, and we will not hesitate to use it. That is both a message to the West and a reassurance to the Russian people. On the other hand, Ukraine and its allies cannot be underestimated. When the Su-57 entered the war, concerns arose that the US or NATO would be forced to deploy more F-35s, F-16s, or even increase aid for more advanced air defense systems. This puts the war at risk of being pushed to a new level, where any mistake could turn into a disaster. A detail that makes many analysts laugh but is also worth pondering is that although the Su-57 is advertised as stealthy, Ukraine claimed that they have seen it on radar. This is like walking into a coffee shop wearing an invisibility cloak, but still being pointed at by the waiter. Hey, what do you want to drink? The question is, does the Su-57 really meet the stealth standards as advertised, or is it just at the level of reducing radar signals and not completely disappearing? If so, then its advantage is not invisible to the eye, but the ability to strike quickly, concisely, and be difficult to intercept. In any case, the appearance of the Su-57 on the battlefield in Ukraine will certainly change the situation. This is the first time in history that a Russian fifth-generation fighter has participated in a truly large-scale war. It is both a test of technology, a test of strategy, and also a test of the endurance of the international community in the face of an escalation that is not easy to control. Chapter 3. Consequences, Messages, and Historical Lessons. If Chapter 2 has been about the appearance of the Su-57, then Chapter 3 will go into the most important part, the meaning, consequences, and what history can teach us from this event. First, in terms of the battlefield, the Su-57 will certainly put pressure on Ukraine. Energy infrastructure, command centers, and weapons depots deep inside Ukrainian territory will become potential targets. Even if the Su-57 does not directly enter the danger zone, its presence alone will force Ukraine to spread its air defenses thin to protect more targets. This is like suddenly seeing an invisible man lurking around your house, making you unable to sleep, having to turn on the lights all night and check the windows constantly. Second, in terms of politics, this event is a clear message from Moscow to both Washington and Europe. You guys are sending us modern weapons to Ukraine, we have something to offer too. It turned the Ukrainian battlefield into a testing ground for the world's leading military technology, like a living weapons laboratory. This is a harsh reality. Thousands of civilian lives are being caught up in the vortex of technological testing. Third, in historical terms, when a new weapon is introduced to the battlefield, there are always two possibilities. Either it proves its superior value and changes the situation, or it reveals its limitations and becomes a laughingstock. Remember World War II? The Germans once launched the 1,350-ton Dora supergun, which could fire 47 kilometers. It sounded formidable, but in the end it became a bulky, expensive, difficult to move and ineffective machine. The cutting-edge weapon may not be successful, but it will definitely leave its mark in history. The Su-57 is now facing exactly that test. Fourth, in terms of the media, this event highlights the role of the press and public opinion. In the past, when new weapons appeared, the news spread slowly, and the world only knew about it after many months. Today, with just a satellite photo or a video posted on social media, the news immediately spread around the world. War does not only take place on the battlefield, but also takes place in the minds of millions of people holding their phones to read the news. Russia launched the Su-57, and immediately millions of people were talking. Is it really strong? And that talk has become part of the war itself. Finally, as for the lesson for humanity, this event reminds us that every step forward in weapons technology carries the risk of escalating the conflict. If the Su-57 proves its strength, it is not impossible that the US, Europe, or even China will respond by introducing more advanced weapons to the battlefield. At that time, Ukraine will no longer be just a local war, but will risk becoming a global stage where all powers test their strength. And history has proven many times, when the stage is too crowded, the script often goes in the direction of chaos. Putting it all on the defense map, we will see clearer. If the Su-57 takes off from its base in southern Russia, its combat radius is enough to cover almost the entire territory of Ukraine. That means that any major city, from Kyiv, Kharkiv, Dnipro to leave, can become a target. Ukraine will be forced to strengthen its air defenses everywhere, but that also means they have to disperse their forces. The strategic advantage that Russia has is to keep their opponents tense as a string. And then, the final question that we, the observers, need to ask. Is this a sign that the war has entered a new phase? The answer is almost certainly yes. The Su-57 is not just an aircraft, but a symbol of escalation, of both sides being ready to challenge each other with the most advanced technology. This may bring a temporary advantage to Russia, but also increases the risk of turning the war into a global catastrophe. Conclusion. So from Chapter 1 to Chapter 3, we have gone through the whole picture, from the context of the war, the sudden appearance of the Su-57, to the profound consequences on the battlefield, politics, history, and humanity. This is a story not only about aircraft, but also about how technology, power, and media intertwine to create historical turning points. As a journalist, I believe that our task is not only to recount events, but also to analyze, question, and warn. The Su-57 may help Russia score points in the short term, but the price that humanity may have to pay is uncertain. If you find this analysis interesting, please support the History and War channel by clicking like, share, and subscribe. Because the more people discuss together, the more perspectives are open, the more opportunities we have to understand and learn lessons so as not to repeat the mistakes of history.